Hello, I'm Daniela. In today's video, we're going to make stitched fabric combos. These are little elements that you make ahead of time and you use in your slow stitching. We'll use fabric scraps and just some thread that coordinates. And the variations you create are based on the fabric choices you make, the fabric you have, and the thread you use to just make a few stitches. Now these aren't necessarily finished projects, although they could be. You could take this as far as you want. The basic idea is you take two pieces of fabric, two little scraps, cut them to the shape you want, add a few stitches, just enough to hold them together, and then you have a little element. From there you can add it to your slow stitching and enhance it with further stitches. The idea is that it's not a perfect set element. It's not a particular size. It's just a little combination of fabric with a few stitches. I'll also show how I take these and use this piece in my slow stitching so you get an idea of what I do with them. I like to save them in a little cigar box. I have a ton of them, and then when I need something for my slow stitching pieces, I can just pull out the cigar box and go through them. This is a really fun project that I like to do when I have some creative energy, but I don't really want to start a whole new project. And it uses up some scraps. So fabric scraps, they seem to multiply on their own, and this is a great way to use them. So let's get started.
So these are some examples of the make-ahead little scrap fabric pieces that you could make and use in your slow stitching. So I just wanted to go over them quickly with you, show you how I make it, and then show you how I use it. So I just take two pieces of fabric that are somehow related, and I use that term loosely. So with this one, I have the red and then this pattern with red in it, and so I stitch just some red stitches combining it. With this, because of the fabric length that I had, I just stitched them together. I didn't need a piece of backing to support it. Now from this one, I have a little piece of backing here, just another piece of scrap fabric. I have my two pieces of fabric, the fuchsia one here and this patterned one that has these petals that are triangular shaped. So I stitched a few triangles there to combine the pieces. By no means did I fill this up with stitches. I just have a really secure element here that I can cut down, trim further to use in my work when I'm ready if I want, or to use it as it is and continue to stitch over it, kind of to laminate it with stitches. Here's another one that I took, no backing on this one, because it was a little piece of denim and this little scrap fabric, and it tied together with the blue. So then I took just a little motif from the pattern and stitched it. And because it has little dots, little French knots over this would go beautifully as well. Here I just stuck with green. I have my green background and green here, and I have plenty of space to add additional stitches or trim it down as I want. With here I took this beautiful teal, picked it up on this fabric, and I just used some stitches to hold it in place along with the backing. Now this offers up additional colors to use, the white, some orange, and even green. So there's lots to play with there. And here I just took black and white. I could have done little lazy daisy stitches to match this flower or anything. I just did little straight stitches in white. It's a very neutral piece, and I'm sure it'll be very helpful in my work. And here I have this fabric that I wanted to salvage of this bird. So I used the background, the purple background here to combine it. I could have picked up on this green because I do like that additional element of green. And I just used seed stitches around the bird, and this focuses the bird as the main object. So to create this piece, it's really simple. You just go through your fabric stash. So I found these two pieces of pink in my stash. I just happen to like them. And now I'll just combine them. This is really the raw scrap from my stash. It's got the pinked edge on this one, a little raw edge here, and an odd shape. So I'll just trim this down. I think I want to get rid of that pinked edge. So I'll just cut that right off. And because this is scrap fabric, I don't have that attachment to it that if I was cutting a pristine fat quarter or yard of fabric, I might have. So I kind of like that large like this, and I'm not even going to bother cutting this pink edge because I think I'll just cover it with this piece. Now the beauty of this piece is it's so big I can attach it just like that, although it's rather large, but I think I'll just cut it down. And I kind of like the uneven shape. So I can make it into a strip like that, or I can turn it around and use it L-shaped or however I want. And I kind of just like it just like that. It's a little unusual. Maybe I'll flip it over so it kind of comes out a little wider that way. And if I decide after I stitch it together and save it and then want to use it in my work to trim it down and just make a perfectly neat strip, well, I could always do that too. So I'm just taking some pink thread, again, leftover thread. So I'll just choose to stitch it together in any formation. I think I'll just make a lazy daisy stitch to hold it together. There's plenty of fabric layers here and here. So I'll just stitch around and come up. I have my loop, and then I just tack it down. And then I'll just repeat that 4 more times. And I can do as many of these as I want. I like to stitch just enough to hold it together because that lets me keep my options open about trimming it down or cutting it or adding additional stitches when I'm ready to use the piece. It kind of makes it a little more versatile. But if I'm inspired by a particular piece, I'll go to town. I'll add different colors of embroidery floss, different stitches, and really play it up. I can also add additional strips of fabric if I'm so inclined. But for the most part, I just like to do a simple scrap combination here. So actually that's just 4 petals instead of the 5 I originally planned, but I like it. So I'll just knot off the back. And that's just one example of how I used my scrap fabrics and a few little stitches to create a piece that I can use in the future. So I'll add this piece to my stash. Now let me show you how I use an already established piece in my work. So I had this background. I added a few little things. I had just the pieces put together, and so I just stitched them down, and then I thought this would look perfect with it. I can incorporate the green, and I'll just add some more purple to pull it together. So I did find some things in my stash. I have this purple ribbon, which I think enhances everything with the repetition of the color, and it pulls things together. Then I found this little scrap of a piece of embroidery that kind of matches the trim there. So I think I'll just add that to my piece like that with a few stitches. So I have my 2 little additional elements, but I like the way this looks and it's coming together. So because I already stitched some seed stitches here, I'll just continue with that theme to attach this piece to my backing here. So I have some purple thread. I think it's the same color, but I'm not quite sure. And I'll just hold it in place and attach a few more seed stitches around this piece. And it will look like they were all designed to go together. And in a way, they kind of are. Even if I didn't have this backing in mind when I stitched this little scrap piece. Now again, because I want the bird and this fabric to be the focal point, I'll just do the seed stitches all the way around it. So now before I add my ribbon and the little daisy, I think I want to take a little bit of the green that sort of matches this background from the green and put in a few seed stitches around the bird as well, just to add a little pop of color. So I'll just incorporate a few more of those. This is something I didn't have on the original piece, but I did have that little green on the end of the fabric that I really wanted to showcase. So now my piece is starting to look like it was intended to be there. And now all I have to do is attach this little ribbon and stitch this down. And so when it's all stitched down, this is how it looks. This little piece that I made ahead of time, altered it somewhat and used it in my work. So I'm really pleased with the way these little stitched fabric scraps pull a piece together or enhance it.
So that's how I make my stitched fabric combos, using scrap fabric. I have lots of videos on these little make-ahead elements, and I'll link them below in case you want to try some others. The idea is you take a simple premise, a simple formula or recipe, and you go to town with it. You have fun with it. As always, feel free to embellish, alter, and change these techniques to whatever strikes you, your style, your mood, and what you have on hand. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe. Thanks for joining me today.